Hello, my friends. Happy fifth line day. It's a left angle cross of the Clarion, and today would have been Ra's 74th birthday. So thank you so much to Uru Hu and his family too, because if you are a subscriber to jovianarchive.com, you would have gotten an email this morning about the vehicle, the passenger, and the driver. And if you scroll down, you'll notice that there's a link to download all files, one of the fundamental elements of the human design system. So this concept of the vehicle, the passenger, and the driver, I highly recommend that you go check that out. On fifth line days, we have an ability to reach out into the world and to affect strangers. And strangers were part of Ra's world as far as how he was here to impact and have the stamina to bring forth something new into the world. Uru Hu is the system's founder and messenger. Ra was born Alan Robert Krakauer in Montreal, Canada on April 9th, 1948, where he spent his early years. After he earned a Bachelor of Arts degree, his career path led him into the business world as an advertising executive, magazine publisher, and media producer. The arts were important to Ra as he expressed himself as a composer and performer throughout his life. In 1983, he left Canada to travel, eventually finding his way to the island of Ibiza, where he spent years working as a school teacher. In January 1987, he had a sudden and unexpected mystical experience, followed by an encounter with a voice, an intelligence far superior to anything he had ever experienced. This encounter lasted for 8 days and nights, during which he was given the information for what is known today as the human design system. Ra considered himself the messenger of the human design system and dedicated the next 25 years of his life teaching the system around the world, teaching people how to live a healthy life, how to make the right decisions, and live with awareness. Together with his family, he lived in the United States, Germany, and for most of the time on Ibiza, where he passed away in March 2011. Thank you so much to Ra for this beautiful human design system. All right, so taking a look at our transit today, we can see that we have a lot of activations creating definition in this chart because you can see colored in centers. Now, with regards to this center down here, this is about the pressure and stress that leads us to evolve or mutate, you could call it. This is the channel of mutation. A design of energy which initiates and fluctuates. It operates in a pulse, and the pulse is in response to the vital life force and energy. So all of us being conditioned by this background frequency of having this off-on pulse, and that off-on pulse is being created by Mercury, as you can see, Mercury in the first line of synthesis, and Pluto still in the third line of conservatism. So let's go check out that Mercury. Mercury in gate 3, which is difficulty at the beginning. This is the gate of ordering. Mercury represents our communication and thinking. And in the first line of synthesis, it reads, difficulties can only be overcome when all pertinent factors have been analyzed. Mercury detriments this line. The reliance on intellect at the expense of intuition can lead to unnecessary frustration. In other words, the inability to know that order will emerge and the drive to find this knowing elsewhere. And then we have our Pluto, truth, transformation, and psychology in the gate 60, which is limitation, the gate of acceptance. Third line conservatism reads, Saturn exalted. Enlightened self-interest that naturally handles restrictions and limitations, ensuring identity and security, which is the energy to maintain identity and security despite limitations. Mars detriments this line. ego-gratifying self-interest that ignores limitations and suffers predictably. Energy which ignores limitations and pays the price. So, I would say to all of you out there who are undefined in the sacral center, pace yourself. If you have a lot of energy, remember to do what is required for you to follow your own personal strategy and honor your authority. Experiment with that and see how that works for you. As it's Ra's birthday, let's go check out this line, because this was his personality core essence, his broadcasting of his internal light that shone. Now this is an individual gate, the arousing, the gate of shock. And the fifth line reads symmetry. Sun exalts this line. Perfected illumination, that in grasping the nature of the shock, can transform its normal patterns into a symmetrical adaptation that rides the shock and avoids its devastation. The perfection of the warrior ego through instinctive adaptation. This was Ra's life purpose in the world. It's in the quarter of initiation, purpose fulfilled through mind. So his mind, through this initiation of a new system into the world, bringing us a message, something that has the stamina to endure and empower all of us as a human species as we move into the uncertain of this global cycle changing, the background frequency changing. Now, shifting down into where this energy is grounded in today's transit, we can see the Earth is giving our balance in the line of progression. This is again the gate of intuitive clarity. 57 is the gentle. And the fifth line of progression reads, Pluto exalts the natural ability to establish new forms while maintaining the powers of reevaluation and reexamination. This provides the clarity to examine the data and assess the process. In other words, the possible intuitive gift for evaluation. And Moon detriments this line. The tendency to keep on keeping on that can end up as a misguided missile, when in action the intuition may become overwhelmed and unable to assess and evaluate its progress. Now, as we are on Ra's birthday, I want to explain, rather than going into the rest of the transits to see some highlights as I like to do, I want to explain the exaltation and the detriment a little bit further. You will find a lot of people out there create their own human design system. And it is true that Ra said at one point that everyone could write their own rave I Ching. Each of us individually have our own rave I Ching, our own genetic predispositions and preferences. So when you look at the exaltation and detriment, as we can see here in the grounding, we see two very extreme ends of the spectrum. What happens when you're not self is that you're rigid and fixed on one side or the other. And what happens is most of us exalt, think that it's better to be on the exalted side. And so we all strive for that. We all try to be this or that, whatever we think is better in whatever case or scenario, coming from the mind's perspective. Every single gate that you see has 1,080 different ways of operating. There is so much down below the surface. Our unique specificities, the way that we are designed to operate. And all of it, you don't have to learn all of it. All of it can be boiled down to, like Ross says, vehicle, passenger, and driver. You are your own authority only if you make decisions and base those decisions on the aspect of you that is consistent in this life, which is your natal imprinting, which is your type, strategy, and honoring your personal process of authority.